As mentioned before in part 2, in this part 3 of this series, I'm going to tell you how believers can exceed the knowledge of warlocks. Now, why am I talking about the knowledge of warlocks? It is because often when folks are in need, when they are facing a situation that they can't handle, they go online or they go to the library or they go to places to get assistance. And there's nothing wrong with that attitude when you're looking for help. But in the world, when you're looking for help, especially when it comes to social relationships or when it comes to conflict, you'll end up with the knowledge of warlocks. And understand the following: those warlocks will not tell you things as they are. Because warlocks, first of all, as I mentioned before, they are pagan. That's why they are warlocks, because they're pagan, and they can't stand common people. They do not trust common people because they know that common people are mainly centered around seeking relief. And that's why they know that common folks will often misuse knowledge to get what they want. So warlocks will not just tell you things that are true. Warlocks may give you hints in what may work for you, but will not entrust you their full package of knowledge unless you are one of them. As I mentioned before in part 2, warlocks prefer witches above common women because they at least have a basis, a common basis with witches. Not that they are so fond of witches, because witches tends to want to get rid of a male supervision, which is dysfunctional. They prefer witches above common women. Now understand the following also. When you receive knowledge from a warlock, he is only telling you what will relieve you from a specific dangerous situation. For example, let's say that you are dealing with a cheating husband, okay, and you go to some Babylon church where you have a pagan pastor. He's a warlock and he hears your case. Then he, seeing the situation, will tell you things to relieve your marriage from conflict. The warlock, who in this case is the pagan pastor of the Babylon church, he sees that both you and your husband are dysfunctional. He sees also that you have stuff you don't want to face. And he knows if he tells you to your face that you have things you need to face, that you would probably explode and you would turn on him and that you would generate contention against him. He knows that. And he also knows that the only reason you're with that man who is your husband is because you don't want to face your own mental issues. So the pagan pastor sees all of this, so he's not going to tell you the truth about the matter. It's going to tell you that your husband is frustrated and that he needs more attention. So the pagan pastor will tell you, give more attention to your husband. And when you do this, it works. Your husband tends to spend more time with you. What he said was factual, but wasn't actually the truth. The truth was you shouldn't even be with that guy. But for him to reveal that onto you, you wouldn't take it nor deal with it, and you would cause a lot of trouble. And if when a divorce happens, the pagan apostle will get the blame when things escalate, because the pagan apostle, who's a warlock, he also sees that the husband will likely become violent when it comes to divorce. So this warlock sees the whole situation, and therefore, because he sees that you can't be trusted with the truth, he tells you things to relieve yourself. So in this case, the pagan pastor or the warlock sees that if he tells you the truth, it will escalate. So he does not tell you the truth, he tells you facts. Okay? Now, why am I mentioning this? It is because Christ told us, believers, not to cast our pearls before swine. Why? Because the swine will not appreciate it. They will trample upon the pearls, turn against us to devour us. Now, believers often don't realize the intensity of what Christ meant here. Warlocks who don't follow Christ pay more attention to what Christ said than believers. Now, let me say it one more time. Warlocks, whether inaugurated or whether just common warlocks out there, they pay more attention to what Christ said than believers. Have you noticed that Christ himself often gave facts to people without giving them the truth? Does it mean that Christ was lying onto them? No. Withholding information doesn't mean you're lying. Lying is when you want to enforce something that goes against God. That's lying. But withholding information doesn't mean you're lying. There are times you need to withhold information, especially if the other party is not willing to be responsible with information that he or she will receive. So there are times you should only give facts without giving the full knowledge. And warlocks understand this perfectly. And they practice this. That's why warlocks avoid a lot of rage. And that's why, unfortunately, a lot of believers remain a target of psychic violence, is because they don't learn what Christ taught them, which is not to cast your pearls before swine. They hold on to worldly values like honesty is the best policy. First of all, a policy is a structural enforcement to manage a situation. Honesty is when you are real towards yourself and towards others. Now, a policy should be honest for it to work, okay? But it doesn't mean that honesty in itself can be the best policy. And here's another thing. What people in the world call honesty isn't even honesty. What they call honest is just dumping your will, dumping your thoughts, and people just have to take it. Yet, a lot of believers take that definition of honesty and they agree with it without checking it. So, believers tend to dump their will, dump their frustrations, dump their thoughts. Even if their thoughts are correct, they don't check whether the individual at the other hand is trustworthy or not. For example, in the world, you have those warlocks that tell you never to confront a narcissist. There are women also saying it, women that have experience with narcissistic abuse, but warlocks would tell you never confront a narcissist. And this is found in the Old Testament, where it's written, do not correct a fool, lest he hate you. And it says when you chastise a wicked man, you will bring harm on yourself. It's written in the book of Proverbs in the Old Testament. Now, believers tend to read over this, saying, oh, it's Old Testament, it doesn't matter. Warlocks read the Bible, because warlocks read the Bible, don't get twisted, they do. And they see this written, and they see the value of what's written there. Even though it's Old Testament, and its relevance must be in line with Christ, the warlock who doesn't follow Christ still sees the value of it. And when the warlock sees around him, he knows that indeed the people that have a reprobate mind don't confront them because they will explode. And then the warlocks also read, do not cast your pearls before swine, nor what's holy to dogs. So the warlock sees the connection between what's written in the book of Proverbs and what Christ later said. And they see, I see it now. There are times I should withhold information. The warlock knows that you can't go through life not saying anything. You can't go through life always keep your mouth shut. That's not practical. You should reveal information, but reveal information in line with the situation. If you're dealing with someone that's trustworthy, you can reveal information in a constructive manner, and it will work out well. If you're dealing with someone who just wants relief, then release facts that they then can use however they want. Don't give the full knowledge. Warlocks pay more attention to what Christ said than believers. And this is quite embarrassing. I'm saying this is quite embarrassing. It shouldn't be like this. Look, Christ also said, I sent you as sheep amongst wolves. Therefore, be wise as serpents and innocent as doves. Christ said this. Now, the wolves are common people. Not all common people in the absolute sense, but common people in general. Because common folks in general, they don't want to deal with frustration. They don't want to face things. They just want to be relieved. They have this toxic obsession with seeking relief, which also implies that they want control. When the believer reads this in the New Testament, when Christ the Lord said, I send you as sheep amongst wolves, therefore be wise as serpents and innocent as doves, believers tend to read and think, oh, Christ said it. And they say, hallelujah, and sing praise in church. Then they go home and they continue as usual. The warlock reads this, even though he's not following Christ. But he realized, hold on a minute. Sheep amongst wolves. Wolves are predators. Predators prey on weaker animals. So the warlock understands that you are vulnerable and there are predators around you. But you don't have to be afraid of the predators as long as you outsmart the predator. And then the warlock thinks, Christ compared the wisdom he instructs us with as a serpent. And then the warlock thinks, a serpent's quite flexible. Then the warlock realizes, so Christ is telling me, be flexible in your attitude, be flexible in daily life. Innocent as doves. And then the warlock realizes, so 1 minute, doves are not predatory animals, but they are alert, and when they need to take action, they take it. So then the warlock realizes, Christ is telling me to be alert, be flexible and alert. The warlock reads that and gets it. A lot of believers are just like churchgoers. They rely on what the pastor tells them because they are seeking validation from the pastor or validation from the congregation instead of obeying what Christ told them to do. That's why you have many believers that are haunted by sickness, depression, suicidal tendencies, and financial hardships, and you have warlocks that come in the name of Osiris or in the name of Mama Oshun, or which is Jezebel. They come in the name of so many pagan gods, or sometimes they fake come in the name of Christ, and things go easy with them. Now, don't get me twisted here. Christ said in the world shall have tribulation. Also, warlocks face tribulation, but they overrule the tribulation comes against them by doing what Christ said. They don't follow Christ, but they do what Christ commanded believers to do. They don't give credit to Christ, but they pay attention to what Christ said. And by them doing this, they manage the tribulations come against them far better than many believers. So what should believers do to outsmart warlocks? Very simple. They should do what Christ told them to do. They should stop holding on to worldly myths. Okay. For example, let's say you have, I need to say this. This may upset some people, but I don't care. This whole thing called falling in love is narcissistic. Just think about it. You have unmet expectations due to your upbringing, and you are frustrated because of this, and then you encounter someone and you feel this attraction. And this attraction tends to sign to you that if you're with this individual, then all your issues are going to be over. And it's this promise in your mind that all your issues are going to be over that attracts you to this individual, that develop this obsession towards this individual. You can't stop thinking about this individual. You're so happy even when their name pops up in your mind. This is a very bad situation. Everything in life that you're involved with, your mind must be present. Let's say you love baking bread. You're very fond of it, and you're very good at baking bread. Your mind must be there. Because if only your emotions are there, but your mind ain't there, you may burn yourself at the oven, or you may put the wrong ingredients because you're so excited to make baking bread. So things will go wrong, so your mind must be there. If you love surfing, I don't care how excited you are about surfing, your mind must be there. You must know if that wave is too big and too fierce, you're not going out there to surf that wave because it could kill you. So with everything you do in life, both your emotions and your mind must be present, especially your mind. So this whole idea that you encounter someone from the opposite sex, and now your emotions take over, and your natural judgment is blurred, and people see it as a good thing, that's delusional. And then when you think about it, when people are quote unquote in love, it's all about their expectations. So when you're so-called in love, it's not really about the other individual. It's all about you getting your expectations met. That's why after the honeymoon phase is over, there's often a lot of issues. You have people getting married based on this quote-unquote falling in love myth, and after they are married, things go terribly wrong. Then you have women finding out they're married to a monster, or you have men finding out they're married to a narcissistic witch. What happened? This relief-seeking mindset that he had was triggered by the paranormal. So when they felt this strong attraction, they considered it a natural thing, but it wasn't natural. There's a difference between natural sexual excitement towards opposite sex and falling in love. Those are two very different things. A natural sexual attraction of opposite sex, you will experience it with almost anyone of the opposite sex that is attractive or that matches the beauty standards you are conditioned into. But this natural sexual attraction doesn't mean that you automatically want to be involved with the individual. It's just a natural attraction. Falling in love is a delusion in which you hope to have a final escape with someone else, and it's not from God. In romantic literature, this falling in love delusion is praised as something great. But in reality, it will turn out in a disaster. As I mentioned before, both your mind and your emotions must be present with anything you do in life. So now, warlocks who look at the bigger picture, they see this. So when a warlock walks around and he feels this strong pull towards a female, he begins to think, what's wrong with this female? Which demon is working behind the scenes here? When common folks out there feel this strong pull, they think there's something special with individual, and now they want to go after this special thing. And then you have Babylon churches that tell you, oh, you're in love. It's the Lord leading you to your spouse. And then you have those Babylon churches that promote this romantic crap. And you have believers falling for it. And those believers end up wasting precious years of their lives that could have been spent in serving the Lord. They now spend in trying to maintain a hormonal rush. Because the whole falling in love thing is the same as a drug addiction. You're addicted to the other individual based on unexamined expectations you're holding on to. So it's really chasing a high. So then you have Babylon churches telling believers that you need to work hard for your marriage. But then a warlock comes by and a warlock thinks, hold on a minute. Male and female are designed by the Most High. Right? If that's the case, that means that every male has a natural urge towards the female, and every female has a natural urge towards the man. And they're both built to match one another. So if you encounter someone that's a match for you, then things should go smoothly because it's based on nature, it's based on reality. How come you need to fight very hard to make a natural dynamic work? The warlock looks at it and thinks, what is this? But a lot of believers, they're not renewed in their mind, so they keep fighting to preserve something Christ told them to forfeit. So, in the case of sexual relationships, warlocks are quite real. Now, don't get me wrong here. There are warlocks, especially those that are involved in warlock cabinets, who are involved in child prostitution, they're involved in human trafficking, involved in all kinds of weird stuff because they're worshipping Apollo. Okay? Warlocks that are not inaugurated, who don't know any better, may attempt to do the right thing with demonic aid, but they'll figure out sooner or later that this doesn't work. Warlocks are inaugurated, who know they're part of the dark side. They're also involved in sexual dysfunction, but that is out of worship to the beast. But it doesn't take away that they're realistic about the natural dynamic. And that is one of the afflictions many believers face today, is that they are not realistic about the natural sexual dynamic that Christ created. That's why those sodomite movements can project and inject their field so successfully in society. It's because believers are not guarding the natural knowledge of the Most High. They get along with being romantic, get along with falling in love, they get along with so many BS stuff that Christ told them to forfeit. Warlocks that are inaugurated, they know the natural dynamic, but they know who they're serving, so they promote the abomination. And they are quite direct and quite consistent and quite dedicated in doing it. And their consistent dedication works out. That's why those sodomite movements succeed in recruiting many people. That's why Hollywood succeeds. That's why Disney succeeds. Believers need to be consistent in their dedication to Christ. That is the only way we can be more than overcomers. Just going to church every Sunday and singing songs saying we're more than overcomers is not going to do it. You need to walk the walk instead of just talking the talk. You can talk the talk, I just don't problem with that, but you also need to walk the walk. That talk must translate itself in walking. Look, another thing about warlocks is that they operate in patterns and cycles. Because the demonic realm can only operate in patterns and cycles. And here's the advantage for the believer. We're not stuck with patterns and cycles because we have the power that comes from Christ. But we need to walk in it. Yes, we need to walk in it. When we walk in it, we are far more powerful than warlocks. When we walk in it, the wizards have a problem. Yes, when believers walk in the power, when believers walk the walk, wizards have a problem. Warlock cabinets are in danger. But here's another thing I've noticed. Many believers can't even discern between the supernatural and the paranormal. They see black magic often as being a gift from the Holy Spirit, because they don't recognize it's black magic. They don't see the difference between the counterfeit and the real. Why can't they see it? Because they're not renewed in their mind. They still have the black and white thinking of the world. Look, the real issue here is not Satan. The real issue here is not the paranormal. The real issue here is not even the shadow government, or the Illuminati, or the Jesuits, or whatever you want to call them. The real issue here isn't even the warlocks. The real issue here is that believers don't obey their Lord and Master. Believers don't walk the walk. It's not all believers. There are many believers that walk the walk and they're powerful in it. But there's still too many believers that don't walk the walk. And I'm telling you here, walk the walk. Warlocks say walk the walk because they know without that paranormal cover they're doomed. Look, there are men out there whose families are safe. For example, you can have a man out there who has several daughters. Those daughters are very beautiful. And no guy dares to assault those women. Those girls are never the target of any sexual harassment. Not because there are no predators out there who don't attempt to do something. It's not because those daughters are operating Christ intended, because those daughters have issues also. So, and remember, predators don't want feminine women, they want women that are damaged goods. So even if the daughters of that man are damaged goods, no man comes near them. You know why? Because that man, who is a warlock, walks the walk. He does his ceremonies, he does his rituals, and that's why there's a demonic cover that hinders negativity from coming near his daughters. That's why his daughters are safe. And it can be that the daughters are aware of it. And that's why the daughters carry rings with them. When other people ask them, oh, let's say one of those daughters' name is Elsa, and Elsa carries this ring um, with a black stone in it, and some ask her, "Oh, is that your engagement ring?" No. Then she says, "No, it's just a heritage I received from my grandmother." But in fact, that ring was given to her by her father because that ring is charmed and it keeps her safe from predatory men and predatory women temporarily. Warlocks walk the walk because they know without walking the walk, they are vulnerable and they can be finished. Believers, please walk the walk. Agree with Christ and be at peace.